brief introduction of what Agentforce is and how AI is basically reshaping the landscape of service in general, and how you as a company or an enterprise can leverage the power of AI and deliver better customer service, get maybe a better return on investment on your service investments. And then how can Salesforce and Agentforce help you uh, streamline, optimize, and if there are any scope of improvements in your service landscape, how can you do that? We have a set of like use cases to show how easy it is to actually get started with Agentforce and maybe have a great and pretty swift time to market with an AI implementation if you already have Salesforce in your landscape. So maybe a brief overview of what an agent is. I think anyone who hasn't already been living under a rock over the past maybe 6 to 8 years already knows the kind of transformative impact AI has had, not just on sales or service. It goes down to even your kids' homework. Like people are, or like you could just go to maybe any GPT and basically get what we call answers to your homework questions. But that's what most of the GPTs excel in. And it's good, but life could be great. And that's where basically an agent comes into picture. Like a generative AI use case with an LLM model can get you answers to most of your questions. But if you have to have an interaction every time you need a solution or an answer with an LLM, then it basically beats the point of automation. And with agents, we kind of get into a case where the power of machine learning, the power of generative AI, all of that combined with your enterprise data can drive value for you. So, like by definition, an AI agent is just a software program that can utilize artificial intelligence, and it can perform tasks that otherwise a human would do. And an agent, just like a human, can work independently to basically progress towards and achieve your company's goals. And given it's a software, you don't have to basically have an 8-hour shift for that agent. They'll work 24/7. Whenever your customer needs them, they'll be available to answer most of their uh, like queries. And again, an agent isn't just limited to our case of Agentforce. Like we have self-driving cars already tested. So even that is an example of an agent. The car isn't driving in itself. There's a whole mechanism that goes behind the screens. Like the agent has to look at the feed from the camera, decide whether it's an obstacle, whether I can take a left turn, right turn, what's the right way, even maybe look at the maps and decide what's the fastest way to go there. Everything that a human driver would do is done by that self-driving agent. Now, what Salesforce has done is like we could have self-driving cars, but that won't help with your customer service or maybe with your like with that enterprise data that you have. How to like better utilize that. So that's where Agentforce comes into picture. It's again an AI agent, and basically most of it is a point and click way to get to building an AI agent that can help your sales and service reps be more productive at their work. And an advantage of it is that it basically is built on top of Einstein trust layer. So it gets you a lot of security mechanisms already built in, so that when you're building an AI solution, you can at least have a peaceful night's sleep, not worrying about any security risks that might arise because of maybe some sensitive data was probably published to unauthorized person. And all the security mechanisms that you already have in your sales, service, or marketing cloud are also built into this Agentforce platform. So I'll probably pause here if you have any questions that you want to address with respect to what an agent is. If not, I'll move on. Okay, assuming there are none, and Neha, you can just prompt me if there are any questions, any hands raised.
Yes.
Let's see how an agent works. Now, in any sales or service interaction, the very first step is either a customer asking you a question or basically you reaching out to a customer, maybe with a sales pitch. And in each of these cases, basically you want to have a dialogue. And unlike traditional bots, where it's basically more of a decision tree, the bot would say, hey, pick one of these 5 options, like dial 1 for English, dial 2 for maybe a language of your preference. An agent does it in a more humane way. So you can have basically a conversation how you would have with another human being or maybe a customer service rep. And whatever questions that you're asking, Salesforce agents basically ground the response that they give you in the data that's there in your Salesforce org, or connected to your org through maybe an integration or data cloud. So any question that you ask goes through a series of layers. First of all, the agent will decide, is the query is something that I can answer? Does a bit of filtering, is there any toxicity involved? Or is the customer being a bit too smart and trying to ask questions that may otherwise expose or prompt the bot to expose some of its internal mechanisms? So after making all those considerations, it will basically execute actions, such as, let's say, if you want to check, hey, what's my order status? Can you send me the like the delivery instructions that I've already placed, or can I get the link to track the order? So if that information is there in your org, that agent can query it and show it to the customer. So that the agent can perform a lot of actions that your customer rep would otherwise do. Maybe run a report, do a lookup, search for an information and return. So agent does that, and agent does that faster than how like what an actual human being would do. And based on the data and the metadata in your org, the agent would then basically provide a response to your customer, pretty similar to what an actual human being would do. So it's basically plain English or the language of your preference that you have said that agent to respond to, and it would be a human-like interaction that you or your customers would have with an agent. And this entire thing is built on the Einstein trust layer, so you can be rest assured that it is it is GDPR compliant. It will not be exposing any unnecessary information uh, that isn't supposed to be. Let's say you're managing credit card information, so you can set rules on what information gets returned to the customer as a response, what isn't. So that's basically on a high level how an agent would work. And again, people who have been maybe attending any of the Salesforce seminars, or if you have already seen Dreamforce, you already know all of this information. And people who are just new to this whole Agentforce landscape, it's again great information to already know. I'll move on. So basically, technically, what is that drives Agentforce? Like there are a bunch of GPT models already there in the market. Now, why do you need Agentforce? Probably would be one question, uh, like from your company, let's say whoever is dealing with the finances or whoever has to sign that purchase order that, okay, we're going to go ahead and implement Agentforce, would ask that, okay, you're telling me that we can or we should implement Agentforce, but there are XYZ models already out there. So why is it so special? And Salesforce has already provided like extensive documentation around it. But in summary, basically, it's the Atlas reasoning engine that drives or is the basically brain and the backbone of your Agentforce implementation. It's a pretty advanced RAG engine, and it does a lot of what do we call it? It can manage both structured and unstructured data. So if let's say in your Salesforce org you have structured data such as accounts, contacts, opportunities, orders, etc. So it would pretty easily parse through that information and get you meaningful insights. But let's say if you even have unstructured data, or if you have big data coming in from other sources other than Salesforce, let's say if you have a data lake or a data warehouse connected via any integration, or let's say data cloud. So it has the capabilities to actually parse that information and derive meaningful insights out of it. Second thing it does is the agentic loops, what they do is you may have a question, like a customer would ask a pretty simple question. My order is delayed. Can you give me an updated timeline by when can it be delivered? So the agent will break down this request from a customer into smaller chunks, and then basically decide which is the best topic or which is the best response or the best way to actually address this and be more accurate in its assessment of the customer's question and provide a more accurate response to the customer, which traditional like this is the capability that the traditional GPTs lack. Like you could ask the same question 10 times to a GPT and it will give you 10 different responses. But with Agentforce, you can trust that the response would be grounded in not the data available freely on internet, but on the data that's already there in your Salesforce org. So it is grounded in the information that you already own. Plus, there are guardrails to ensure that the responses that the agent is providing are consistent and they are not deviating too much from one question to another. Or let's say the experience that one customer has is not drastically different from what the experience that maybe rest of your customers have. And finally, it has topic classification also built into it. So for an agent, you can classify, or when setting up as a developer, you can specify a bunch of topics that an agent is supposed to support. And for each question that a customer poses or a customer service rep poses to the agent, it does the classification, and it is pretty, at this point, pretty optimized and gets the most relevant. It picks the most relevant available topics to actually generate that response. So on a high level, this is basically what is driving the agent's responses. Plus, we'll also look at what the Einstein trust layer is. So any data that you have, or let's say you're importing it from third-party sources. So there is zero data retention policy. So the data that you have in your Salesforce is not exposed to other LLMs. Let's say if you don't want to use the out-of-the-box Salesforce model, let's say you're using a GPT or a bunch of other newly launched, let's say it's DeepSeek that you're using. So that data is not exposed or is not stored or published in any of those LLMs. So the data resides within your Salesforce, or no data is retained in the LLMs outside for any model building. So the data is yours, and no one other than you basically gets access to it. Then there is dynamic grounding with secure data retrieval. This is pretty simple. Secure data retrieval in itself is self-explanatory. The data that we are retrieving is secured in terms that, let's say if you have PII information that you want to preserve and not expose to the front end, or let's say there are credit card information or any information that you think is critical, uh, the agent will has the capability to kind of obfuscate from the customer. And dynamic grounding, again, the data that it is fetching and the responses that it generates is grounded in your data, and that's kind of like the backbone of trust layer. Then probably the best use case that Einstein Trust Layer has, like prompt defense data masking, they have been like there for ages. Toxicity scoring is probably one of my favorites. Like at times, what happens is your customer isn't really in the best of moods, and anyone who has worked in customer service or hospitality or maybe any of these customer facing what do you call it jobs, they know that not all customers behave the same. And in your customer service interactions, it may be possible that the customer isn't the most polite, or maybe it is asking a question, or it is like there is a case where maybe if I were a human, or me being a human, I may respond maybe in a harsher tone, and which may negatively impact your customer relations. So toxicity scoring in the Einstein Trust Layer ensures that any response that the agent generates is measured on a scale of toxicity, so that any response that Salesforce or Einstein deems as toxic are prevented from being published. Plus, any question that is toxic, maybe it relates to self-harm, or like sky is the limit to toxicity. You never know uh, how a human mind works. So agent is smart enough to identify that the answer or the interaction is tending towards maybe a toxic interaction. So agent will take actions to ensure that either agent does not respond to those questions, or ask the customer or whoever is interacting with the agent to maybe change the tone to get a better answer. So far so good. If we don't have any questions so far, again, these are all Salesforce features that probably we've gone through a whole bunch of times. Now we look at some of the practical use cases, and with that, I'll hand it over to Prashant to kind of go through a demo. And in service, we'll first look at a use case where maybe you, as a employee, want to use AI to actually optimize your day and optimize your workflows. And in most cases, if you're a service rep, or basically if you're in a service sector, you could probably be a call center employee, or maybe if you're in a manufacturing landscape, you are basically getting frequent calls or emails about, hey, my shipment is getting delayed. Or let's say you're in patient services, you're getting it could be a patient requesting for a visit, or you already have appointments. How do you ensure that AI can help you manage your day and your week more effectively? So we'll just look at that kind of a demo. So what we'll try to do is we'll basically get one of our end users who would basically be using the co-pilot variant of the agent to look at what are basically their scheduled alerts. Or maybe let's say I was on a holiday for a month or a week. Now I'm back into work, and now I need to know what have I missed. And depending on what I've missed, do I want to reschedule any of those meetings or invites, something critical that I want to probably prioritize? So that's a good use case to cover. Then there are customer interactions, that how do you manage them? Let's say if you're a doctor, you have a bunch of patients and you have their data, and you're kind of getting an input that the patient isn't really following their diet. Maybe he or she is at a risk of maybe having the situation turn more severe. So how do you take preemptive action through AI, so that you can avoid any rather than delaying any action, you can actually have AI help you be more proactive and managing visits. It could either be like managing patient visits as a doctor. Let's say if you're in real estate, you could actually have, let's say if you want to show people around the various properties that you have. Now, one person cannot actually be present at 10 places at once. So how do you manage a calendar, manage visits more effectively? And probably Prashant also has maybe an Easter egg or a funny use case to also present at the end. So with that, I'll hand it over to Prashant. And Prashant, this is probably the cue for you to show your technical wizardry.
All right. Thanks, Shashank.
Let me stop sharing.
Yep. All right. So as and when I will be going through the demo, I'll be speaking about a few things that I personally faced an issue because again, even if we are talking about Agentforce, agents are still supposed to be getting feedback from you as the user and then being built upon it. That is how majority of the LLMs do work, right? Now, coming to the actual demo itself, please let me know if the screen is visible or I can reshare it.
It is visible.
All right. Thanks, Neha. All right. So my use case that I'm going to show about is how a doctor who in the health care industry itself, of course, their hospital is has been using Salesforce for quite a long time now. All of their patient records, registries, whatever other details are being stored inside the org itself. Apart from the UI looking plain and bland, our majority focuses on the agent itself. How a doctor who has just come from vacation, she has been in our case, Gauri has been out of office for let's say 5 days now, and she has missed out a lot of appointments. Multiple patients tried reaching out to her, but she didn't really get an answer or wasn't able to answer these queries from the patients. Now she is back. Today is Friday. She needs to know what has been missed out, if there is any future events or tasks scheduled for her. And that is why she notices that her Salesforce org administrator has enabled Agentforce for her, and she is just wanting to play around with the bot, see what it can do. So what she does is she immediately opens up the icon, of course, which opens up the Agentforce default agent. We'll come to the types of agents maybe later in the webinar. But one thing to note down as a disclaimer, again, since it is very much in a new phase, there might be chances that the AI may not work. It might throw you an error. Doesn't really matter. You just refresh the screen and it will work out again. If not, you just deactivate and activate the agent again. So if at all it doesn't work for the first time, pardon me, I'll just refresh and it may start working. Now, coming to the actual demo, I have my list view, I have my reports, I have my dashboards, everything is ready. Even though Salesforce has got a pretty neat and compact UI where I can see all of my details in one go. But after being out of office for so long, now I am too lazy to navigate 10 different pages, 10 different reports and dashboards just to check up on the data that I have within the system. What I'll do is I'll just ask the agent, hey Sunny, being out of office for long, what did I miss? Good part about the agent is if I even, again, since it is LLM, it understands your natural language. Even if there are mistakes in your queries, it will take care of those and still understand what you are trying to ask it. Um, Again, everyone might have heard about Einstein bots as well. They were featured a few months back before Agentforce had come. You might, at times, you might feel like this a bot can also do it. But just talking about the AI and the difference between a bot is now today, if you set up a bot, you have a very linear flow. That means only if you take an action after you ask one particular question will the bot answer. Otherwise, it will just throw you, keep on throwing you errors saying that I don't have enough information or this particular query is out of my capabilities. Now, with an AI, this linear structure breaks. It becomes a non-linear structure where any kind of questions, as long as it is in the capability of the agent, it will always try to pick up the right topic, right action. By topics, I mean what capabilities it has. Now, coming to the actual prompt or the response that the agent gave, as you can see, Gauri, the doctor, she has got multiple events set up. One is a call with a patient named Priya. There is a follow-up meeting. There is a meeting with Ellie Smith, again, another patient. And there has been a seminar set up for the Feb 26th for this particular doctor. Along with that, there are a few tasks associated to her created by maybe the nurses. They have recorded some vitals for certain patients and they have assigned these tasks for them to be reviewed by the doctor. Now, instead of, as you can see, instead of going through multiple different accounts or multiple different contacts, looking at different patients' records and then looking at their individual records, getting their task details or whatever it is, in one go, you can just ask the agent, what is my day looking like or what is my week looking like? And you can get your information right here without navigating to any page. Now, with that being said, I will ask, can you actually move the meeting with Ellie to 2 days, maybe later, same time? Now that I have given it relative terms, it will automatically understand which particular event I'm talking about. As you can see, it is throwing me an error. Just let me refresh the screen. And again, all about demos, sometimes this LLM works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I'll just restart. Jason, what did I miss? Okay, a little bit of time given to the agent to work out on its topics. And if I now see there is a meeting set up with, maybe I'll check for the follow-up meeting with Priya. So I'll just say, can you reschedule to 2 days later, maybe same time. Now, if the agent actually works out and if my topics are correct, it will now try to analyze what is the status and what is the date of the particular event. And it will, as you can see, it has rescheduled it to 2 days later. And since the time was set up to 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., 5:30 p.m. IST, it has already taken in the same time, 4:30 p.m. IST, and the ending time will also be the same. Now, after this, let's say I wanted to see, maybe before leaving, I had asked the nurses to change up the dosage level of a certain patient to maybe increase the dosage of some medicine, just to see how it performs. After this, I completely forgot about it, but then I remember it. What I'll do is I'll just ask the agent to kind of summarize what the patient is going through. Hey, by the way, how is Ellie Smith doing now? Now that I have asked it a question about a certain patient, I just remember the name. It will automatically check for that record, whoever is assigned to me the patient record, and based on the patient, the nurse's records, the vitals that they have stored, it will show me a day-on-day trend, saying that the blood pressure is decreasing, the body temperature is normalizing, and the blood glucose level is also decreasing day by day. So whatever diagnosis or whatever change of dosages that I had provided before I left, that is kind of working out, and that is why the agent is now suggesting me that Ellie's health is kind of improving. And that is the reason I have followed up scheduled a follow-up meeting with her just to check up on her, what is going on, how is she doing, and everything else. Now, with that being said, let's say I want to kind of see, I just noticed that there was a seminar set up for me. What I'll do is, hey, you mentioned about a seminar. Can you tell me or brief me about it? Now, I just want to see, because the seminar will have a long enough description. I just don't want to read it through or navigate to that record. It will give me the entire title of the event along with the description. But what if I say summary and give me the key takeaways? Now, if I ask it that again, since it is an LLM, it will automatically analyze the description provided by the event itself, shorten it just to tell me what are the key takeaways or key pointers that I will be looking at in this particular seminar. And if I want to even reschedule this event for a later time, I can also ask the agent to do that, and it will automatically set up the time accordingly. Now, there might be a scenario where maybe certain different patients had come through into the hospital and I kind of missed them because I was on a long vacation. What I'll do is I'll say, hey, tell me about my appointment cases. If I just ask it that, again, as you can see, I have made a slight mistake in the spelling of appointment, but since it is an LLM, again, it will automatically understand it. And it will show me the various cases or various patients that had come through to the hospital before I left or when I was out of office. And I'll see Priya and Ali both had come to visit me, but I wasn't present. So what I'll do is brief me about maybe Priya's case or Priya's appointment. Now, because I'm asking about it, what it will do is it will search for all the different activities that had gone through the case, what are the subject line description, whatever it is, and the case comments, maybe the case histories, whatever was changed. All of these, there are different things it will take care of, analyze it, and give me a sweet little summary of what is going on with Priya or why did she even come to the hospital for. As you can see, the hospital had suggested her a low sodium diet and exercise regime, but again, there was no response from her end, or she didn't really follow it. So now we have to call her back because her health is worsening. And that is why she had come to visit me since sadly I wasn't available. What I will do is I'll just say, can you schedule a meeting with Priya for the maybe coming Tuesday, maybe at 5 p.m. I'll be available at 5 p.m. working hard. Um, so once I do that, again, the agent is intelligent enough to get all the details, and it will also actually schedule a meeting for Priya. And this event, again, tied into your standard Salesforce CRM activities, you can always send in an email notification to the user or the customer, or from customer, I mean the patient, or whoever it is that you're assigning the case to, or whoever is part of the event. Now, all of this is done. I like it a lot. I just say, thanks. That's about it. I get to know all the details that currently are going around in my week, what is going on in my week. If I want to, maybe I have just optimized my schedule a little bit. If there were any overlapping events, I can also ask the agent to see if there are any overlapping agents or overlapping events, and I can actually reschedule them to a different time so that I can free up my calendar by a lot. Now, coming to doctors are actually really busy. They have to have their calendar organized, otherwise they will be missing up something or the other. And in terms of a doctor, sometimes it becomes very critical that they manage their time together. Now, with the help of an AI agent, their job becomes a lot more easier. Again, Gauri, since she has come back from a long vacation, she now doesn't really have to kind of go through the entire Salesforce ecosystem, navigate to tens of different pages and get all the details in one go. She can just ask the agent, be done with it, and she is sorted to go for your actual physical work. She doesn't really need to stay in Salesforce for all of her activities to be done. Now, suddenly she remembers at the end, okay, everything is done and good, but what about today? I just say, hey, what about lunch? Since I Gauri likes sandwiches, she also has a few additional notes that she provides. Maybe she doesn't like any pickles. So I'll just say no pickles, and it will automatically create a canteen order request. Again, just a sweet little demo of how an AI is versatile enough to not just take care of your formal practices, but there's informal practices as well. Just take an example of your canteen connected to Salesforce, and any of the food order requests are directly coming in from the AI without them actually going to the physical location or calling someone up to set up an order. With that being said, that those were about the use cases that I had for a doctor. I personally felt that it will even though it is a very simplistic use case, it is a very important factor to know that building out complex agents is also a thing, but building out simple agents which ease up a user's job by a lot, instead of them spending over 1 hour just within the Salesforce ecosystem. If they can get it done within 5 minutes, I think that is a whole 55 minutes of an actual doctor saved doing something else, doing something better than just looking at a few different records. Yeah, that was about it from the demo's perspective. I will stop sharing, but before I do it, if there were any questions, any doubts, concerns, please feel free to drop in those in the Q&A or the chat. We'll be able to answer those if we know about it. If we don't know, maybe someone else will also answer it. All right. Yeah, I'll now hand it over back to Shashank to carry on with the rest of the presentation. But if you want me to share the screen again, go through the demo, or maybe if you had any peculiar queries that the agent should ask or we should ask the agent, we can definitely try it out. Maybe it will work, maybe it will not work. I am not sure, because LLMs, again, even though they have a very wide angle of getting information from, it still is very crucial to know that you need to ground your prompts or your agents to the data that you have, instead of hallucinating about some data that doesn't even exist and provide it and try to query the database and then failing. With that being said, thank you for being patient with the demo. I'll hand it over to Shashank for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Prashant. I'll again share my screen. Just give me a minute or maybe a second. So this is where we actually get to the Q&A part. And I already saw there are certain questions placed in the Q&A section. One of them being, what if I ask an agent a question that's, let's say, not in English, and then ask the agent to translate? So maybe let's look at that use case. It's a fun one. And so let me ask a question to this agent in Hindi. And if we have non-Hindi speaking folks, I'm just asking this agent, what's my order status? Now, I have not enabled Hindi as a language for this agent, but I have also not, what do you call it, added any grounding rules that says don't respond to questions that are not in English. So the agent takes the effort or puts in the effort of asking me, like, please provide your email so that I can get your order status. But asking this question is basically the limit of my Hindi knowledge. So I'll just tell the agent, hey, I don't know Hindi, so can you translate in English? And let's see what the agent responds. All right, so the agent is capable of translating content into languages. That's part of, I think, the Agentforce capabilities. It may be beta, it's a demo, or so there's a possibility that this isn't generally available. But in the near future, they should be there. Now, you may have a use case where you don't want such interactions to happen. So you want to ensure that there are select languages that your bot should support. Then you can have the grounding rules that basically prevent the agent from responding to items in other languages. And that's all has to be part of your agent's configurations. So I hope that answers one of the Q&A items. Let's see if there is anything else that's there. We have, I think, filter to set up an Einstein trust layer. So Mohit Peshwani has already answered that. Let's see what's that.
So
I'm not sure if
Shashank,
this is German, French, or Greek, but let's see. I hope it's a toxic question and the agent doesn't respond, but okay. Yeah. So the agent doesn't want to respond to this, and it has categorized this as off topic. So whatever this question is, the agent doesn't think there is any data in your Salesforce org that can actually help the agent either respond to this question, or the other reason for the agent to tag it as off topic is that the agent isn't supposed to answer these kind of questions. So the agent configuration, if you see on the left-hand side, deal with account, case management, delivery issues, escalations, FAQs, order inquiries, etc. Now, if I were a multilingual person, probably I would have. Okay, so the agent was smart enough to prevent disclosing the patient information. Let's try this as well. Pretty sure agent would not respond to this as well. And now this has been highlighted as prompt injection. And these are basically the features from that trust layer of Einstein that probably would help you convince, let's say, your security and compliance teams as well when discussing an Agentforce implementation. And again, this is slightly off topic from basically the Agentforce use cases, but from our experience of implementing Agentforce and wherever we have tried this as a POC for some of our clients, convincing the business stakeholders is easier than actually convincing the security and compliance, because they look at Agentforce, or they like security basically categorizes Agentforce as just an AI implementation, and there are risks or maybe really security and ethical considerations when implementing AI. So documentation around trust layer and maybe such small POCs can actually clear their doubts with and also set the expectation with them that, hey, Agentforce isn't like your traditional GPT or LLMs. There is like a brain behind how, or there is a method to the madness that Agentforce is. It can deal with multiple languages, and even for a language that I have not configured for this bot, it did translate and decide whether it's an off-topic or a prompt injection kind of a question from the customer. So convincing your business stakeholders to actually give a sign off or a go ahead on the implementation is one part, and the second is basically uh, also dealing with the security and compliance teams, ensuring and convincing them with proper evidences that any ethical considerations or security considerations that they have are either out of the box already addressed by the Agentforce, or you can set the guardrails in Agentforce to actually address the concerns. So we can wait for more questions.
So Shashank, just there was a question regarding whether there was any way to see these logs or these chat messages. So yes, there is a way you can actually see the logs over here as well on Shashank's screen. Shashank, if you can open the second last icon on the left-hand side.
This one?
Extreme left.
Extreme
On
left is
the side.
the.
Yeah, so the second last one of those.
Okay, this one, right? The
Yep.
event logs, yes.
So these event logs, they store your data. What was actually, what was an actual conversation that happened between the agent and some user. You can use this to better train the agent with better grounded instructions and prompts. And of course, there is also one more aspect to this, that is there are there are analytics reports and dashboards which are specifically tuned to get messaging sessions associated to any agent. You can also get metrics like how many times the agent actually transfer the mess or the entire chat to an actual live agent. So based on that metric, of course, that metric has to be, or the number of times it gets transferred has to be a fairly lesser amount after we implement Agentforce. But from a very practical scenario, it will be high at the beginning, but as and when it matures enough, gradually your metric about what is the number of time, what number of times did the agent actually transfer the call or chat will improve over time. Now, yes, so the second point that I mentioned about your usage metrics, that would be an answer to the last question, whether if an agent is actually embedded within your website or a community site, you can always have these logs stored somewhere, the metrics, and you can view them. At least that's what documentation also mentions. I can maybe after this demo, I can provide you that link. Now, yeah, Shashank, do you want to take the question about whether Agentforce can actually fetch information from the internet, or is it just the data that we feed?
So as a best practice, the Agentforce does not pull information that's already available on internet, but it's basically the data in your Salesforce or it's basically the data that your enterprise has. And the reason why Agentforce does not pull data freely from or like from internet like the other GPT models is most of that information is copyrighted or may have trademark or intellectual property right uh, related issues if your agent actually started training the model on those data sets without maybe proper giving without giving proper uh, what's that correct term uh, like acknowledging that okay we are using this data to train our model and there may be financial penalties also if an agent if a bot is caught using copyrighted content available on internet. So and this is the reason Salesforce agent restricts the knowledge it derives or the insight it derives and responses that it gets from the data that's already there in your org. And again, let's say if I have a question with respect to my order history, or if I want to know about, let's say, a troubleshooting guide of let's say a manufacturing product. Let's say I buy a car from let's say a company Tesla. Now, if I go to and like if let's say if Tesla had an agent force implementation, I ask, hey, how do I troubleshoot this issue with my seat? It's not heating up in winters. Now, there is no reason for the bot to actually go and check on internet on how that seat warming or seat warmer should work. Tesla or whatever company XY, let's say Shangsha LLC is making uh, chipsets. Now, if a customer has concerns about the chipsets Shastri LLC is making, the best place to get that information would be Shastri LLC's product documentation and troubleshooting guides rather than looking up on internet. And that kind of beats the purpose of actually going and scavenging for information on the internet. And again, the reason for not probably hunting information on the internet would be you would want your customer interactions to be as accurate and precise as possible. And internet can be a weird place, to be honest. So you're better off ensuring that the agent actually looks at the data from your Salesforce or let's say your ERPs to actually respond to the customer. And Prashant, would you want to take the question with respect to using vector databases versus a traditional RDBMS?
So it is always best to actually go for RDBMS because a relational database will always contain a structured format where everything is kind of set up in the way that you want it to be. But then again, using an LLM, unstructured data is also not going to be a huge issue. You can always pass it any kind of unstructured data, and it will still try its best to come up with an answer accordingly.